Hello everyone. Tonight we're not talking about war, plague, or the gallows, but about something even more terrifying, the gaze of others on your own body. We'll step into the Middle Ages, where a scar could brand you a witch, a bulging belly could get you expelled from church, and death wouldn't even save you from being called ugly. This is a story about standards, control, and the haunting whispers that linger all the way to the mirrors of the 21st century. Before you lean back comfortably, take a moment to like the video and subscribe to the channel, but only if you genuinely enjoy the content I share. And leave a comment, letting me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. It's fascinating to see people tuning in from all over the world. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on a fan for some background noise, and let's embark on tonight's journey together. Tonight we begin with something more painful than whalebone corsets, or the scornful glance of a noblewoman in a 3-meter wide dress. The body standards of the Middle Ages, where breathing wrong was enough to be labeled deformed. Forget the gym, forget digital scales, forget the concept of body positivity. Here, the moment you open your eyes, you're weighed, scrutinized, and condemned just for being you. Not a man with shoulders broad as a fortress and abs like stone walls. You're weak, a disgrace. Not a lady with skin pale as a mummy bleached under moonlight. Then you're lowly, wanton. Everything on your body, from your calves, navel, to a tiny mole under your neck, could be reason enough to be called a demon, filthy, or punished by God. Think you could escape as a commoner? No way. As a peasant, you're expected to have a robust body, but not too rough, or you're savage. If you're a woman, you must be thin, pale, and breathe like you're on the verge of death. To be refined. Too fat, that's gluttony, greed. Too thin, decadent, ill-fated, dark-souled. No one asks if you're sick. They just see you're wrong. Wrong in your stomach, your back, your gait, the way you wear your cloak. Your body is a public indictment. But hold on, that's just the surface. Because you're about to embark on a journey spanning over 30 parts, where every fiber of flesh, strand of hair, and breath you take is crushed by society, the church, and even yourself, under the pressure of beauty standards that are absurd, cruel, and never truly real. Tighten your cloak, take a deep breath, if your clothes allow, and brace yourself. Your body is no longer yours. Welcome to a world where you are always, the wrong shape. And if you're born into the lowest, poorest, most populous class, peasants being the wrong shape isn't a risk, it's the default. You don't have a mirror to check, no doctor to consult, no one to tell you how much muscle is enough, or how much a hunched back is too much. Your body doesn't grow as you wish. It grows according to the hoe, the plow, the sack of seeds, and hunger. At 7, you're carrying water. At 8, picking up cow dung. At 10, cutting grass with a blunt scythe. Your muscles aren't trained. They're forced to sprout like weeds to survive winter. If you're a boy, no one cares if you like fighting. They throw you into the pig pen, make you wrestle a hog for castration, and say, a man must do this. If you're a girl, it's worse. They make you carry sacks of flour twice your weight from the barn to the bakery, then say, arms and legs like that will get you married. No one asks if you're tired, if it hurts, if you like it. There's only one question, can you do it? If you can't, you're useless. But ironically, if you do it too well, if your arms are too big, your back too broad, your legs too sturdy, you're mocked as beast-like. Every time you roll up your sleeves to work, you see veins taut like ropes, and people look at you with a shudder, as if you're something wrong in God's plan. You come home with a sweat-soaked back, hands bleeding from endless reaping, feet blistered from standing 10 hours, and your mother tells you, don't let anyone see you walk like a man. You gasp for air, your lungs thin as paper, after winters of starvation, but you must breathe lightly. Keep your stomach flat, your chest still, because a woman who breathes loudly is a filthy woman. If you're a boy with a hunched back, sloping shoulders, or a tucked neck, they say you're not fit to be a man, not fit to marry, not fit to live. In your village, there's a boy named Jan, a bit short, with a short neck and a weak left arm from a bad fever at 7. He works twice as hard to prove himself, but everyone calls him the cripple. No one remembers what Jan did well. They only remember he wasn't strong enough to pull the plow alone. The day he collapsed from exhaustion, no one buried him. They said he was too weak. God didn't need him. You're afraid, not of hunger, cold, or beatings. You're afraid your body will betray you. Afraid one day your foot swells, your hand trembles, and the whole village will know you're no longer up to standard, no longer human. But if you push too hard, plowing through the night, hauling stones to build pens, carrying grain sacks a kilometer long, your spine warps, your knees buckle, your back creaks like winter's wooden doors, and you're still mocked. Why do you walk like a camel? You look disgusting eating. Cripple.
You don't know what to do with your body.
Whether it's thin or fat, strong or weak, ugly or unclear, you're always wrong. One morning you wake up, your hand numb, unable to hold the hoe. Your mother hands you watery gruel and says, "Don't let anyone see." You know, if they see, you'll be left behind. You'll be the next Jan. Muscles aren't a choice, they're a burden. But without muscles, you don't exist. Every day survived is a silent battle between the rotting self inside and the outer shell forced to feign strength. You wish for one day, just one, where your back doesn't ache, your hands don't bleed. But rest is a luxury. If you rest, someone will replace you. And if they do better, you're trash. You learn one thing, in this era, your body isn't something you train to love. It's a tool. And if the tool breaks, it's discarded. No one mourns a bent shovel, let alone a person with a broken back. You want to cry, but you know tears waste water. Water loss means dizziness. Dizziness means falling. Falling means the wrong shape. The wrong shape means no one saves you. So you tighten your sandals, straighten your spine, bury the pain in your gut, and keep going. Welcome to the life of an ordinary person whose body was never truly theirs. And that's just the beginning. Because there are countless other classes, nobles, clergy, knights, prostitutes, physicians, each with their own body standards, harsher, crazier, and more dangerous. If you think only laborers suffered because of their bodies, wait until you see what happens when you have money, and must keep a figure as thin as paper under a dress heavy as a wooden chest. Because in this world, there's a paradox stranger than winter, lasting until June. If you have flesh on your body, it means you eat. And if you eat, it means you're suspicious. Having flesh is a crime. Imagine you're a noble woman. You don't work fields, don't carry anything heavier than a Bible, never let sunlight touch your skin for more than 3 minutes. But one winter, the barley harvest is good, the bread gets thicker, the cheese smells richer, and you, for entirely innocent reasons, start to have back fat. Not much, just enough to make your corset slightly tighter than usual. And then the whispers begin. She's eating in secret. She eats more than she prays. Her face is round as the moon, probably a blood moon. The more flesh you have, the more wary the looks. Beauty means fragility, like a flower about to wilt, weak as someone with tuberculosis. And you have hips, you have thighs, you have rosy cheeks from good blood circulation. That's not beauty, that's a bodily confession. It's worse if you're a man with flesh. They call you beer belly, eating more than working. Effeminate noble. The less thin you are, the lazier you're deemed. Thinness is diligence, piety, restraint of desires. Fatness, common, greedy, godless. But don't think being thin is safe. If you're thin the wrong way, not elegantly thin, but haggard, anemic, trembling, you're a troublemaker. A soulless husk.
Society gives you no chance to be right.
Only two extremes, beautifully terrifying or pitifully ugly. No middle ground, no acceptance. And if you're a woman with a waist thicker than a handspan, you'll hear whispers behind your back like knives. She must be eating others' shares. A woman who lives for her mouth. She'll soon burst her dress. So you cinch your waist, tighten it, cut portions, eat with a silver spoon the size of a fingernail, drink rosewater to curb hunger, chew ice to stop your mouth from craving, all to look like you've never known food, while your organs scream for nutrients, and your hair falls out in clumps like straw after harvest. They don't praise your health. They praise your ethereal look. They praise you as angel-like. Angels, in their imagination, don't eat, don't sleep, don't breathe, and definitely don't have hips. But if you fail to meet that standard, you're cast out, socially and physically. No invitations to feasts, no marriage proposals. Even the priest looks at you with pity, tinged with disappointment, as if you're a construction gone wrong in God's blueprint. There was a girl named Ellen in the region. She did nothing wrong, But after puberty, her figure grew fuller than her peers. They nicknamed her Ellen Two Thighs, as if her thighs were a personal sin. When she went to the market, fishmongers gave her discounts, not out of kindness, but thinking, feed her, so she'll eat and disappear. Ellen tried starving. She drank plain water for 4 months. Her skin turned grey. But when her body shrank, her chest sagged, her lips cracked. They said, she looks like an old hag. What kind of woman is so withered? And so Ellen vanished. One morning, her dress was found floating on the river. No one asked why. They just sighed. Well, she probably knew her place. Beauty in the Middle Ages was punishment for anyone who tried to achieve it, and a death sentence for those who came close. Flesh isn't something you can have, it's something you must hide. Every layer of fat is a moral stain. Every full stomach is a betrayal of divine will, and you must never show you're content with your body. Contentment is pride. Pride is sin. Everyone must live as if their body is a constant shame to atone for. If you don't do it well enough, if you show your belly, your thighs, skin that's not pale, a neck that's not slender, you're not human. You're a warning to other children about the cost of letting go. A beautiful figure. No, it's a figure that endures well. A figure that stays silent. A figure that doesn't resist. You tighten your corset, sip watery broth like boiled stones, and smile. They say, so beautiful. You whisper to yourself, beautiful, but dying. And if you think eating is the only sin, wait until you see the skin standard. Because the skin standard, pale, bloodless, flawless, is what made people smear poison on their faces, thinking they were purifying their souls. In the Middle Ages, if you were a noble woman, beauty wasn't in your eyes, lips, or gait, it was in your skin. The paler, the fainter, the more like moonlight on a mummy, the more valuable. And you didn't just need a pale face. You had to be pale at your wrists, ankles, nape, even your calves under long skirts. Why? Because whiteness proved you never went in the sun, meaning you were rich, noble, protected. If your skin was slightly tanned, congratulations, you've been demoted to a servant, even called a savage from the frontier. So you smeared lead on your face, not powder lead, a fine white paste mixed with vinegar, linseed oil, and sometimes mercury. You applied it daily, though it burned, itched, and over time ate away your skin. But that didn't matter, as long as you were white, white enough that people thought your blood no longer flowed, white enough to glide through halls like a noble ghost. And that wasn't enough. You also had to be pale with a sickly green tint. Not cute blue-green, but the pallor of illness. To achieve this, many women deliberately ate so little they became anemic. Some used wormwood or castor seeds to induce prolonged diarrhea, leaving them exhausted, faces gaunt. They called it body purification. You call it malnutrition. To them, it was a sign of nobility. A beautiful woman wasn't healthy. She was weak, nearly fainting, breathing lightly as a cat. No eating, no drinking, no sleeping enough, no reacting. If you spoke loudly or laughed too much, they called you crude as a market girl. If you walked fast, back straight, shoulders up, you were arrogant like a man. If you had rosy cheeks from running a few steps, no, they'd powder your face again to erase that worldly look. In portraits of the time, women had no eyebrows, no foreheads, no expressions. They shaved their eyebrows, shaved hair around their foreheads to make their heads look taller, foreheads wider, signs of intelligence and submission. Everything on your face had to fade, making way for passivity, for silence. You couldn't show personality through your eyes, features, or smile. You had to be a living wax mask. If you got headaches from the toxic makeup, drink rosewater. If your skin itched from the lead powder, apply more wormwood water. If your hair fell out from long-term poisoning, wear a wig, but not a real hair wig. It might look too alive. True beauty was half alive, half dead. There was a young woman named Odelia in Bruges. She had tanned skin from riding horses with her father in the forest. When she smiled, her face flushed. When she spoke, her hands moved as if telling stories with her whole body. That terrified her mother. She locked Odelia indoors for 6 months. Every day she shaved her forehead, applied thick powder, starved her, and made her move slowly. But Odelia resisted. One day she ran away. They found her 3 weeks later, not dead, but tied up and brought home. Her mother said, "I'd rather you die from poison powder than live so vulgarly." Odelia was never allowed to marry. She became a nun, and she grew paler, not from powder, but because her body stopped fighting. That was probably when her mother was most satisfied. The Middle Ages didn't give noble women the right to live in their bodies. They had to borrow another form, thinner, weaker, colder, to exist in others' eyes. The cost was health, personality, life. But don't think only women were bound by skin standards, because for men, if their skin wasn't marble white, they had no chance of being more than a gatekeeper. And when skin wasn't enough to distinguish, people turned to scent, because the ideal medieval body wasn't just white and weak, it had to smell impossibly fragrant. And as you'd guess, that wasn't a natural scent. It came from wilted flowers, tree resin, wine-soaked fingernails, and bone ash burned in church fires. But that's a story for later. For now, sit still in your 4-layered dress, keep your breath shallow, and pray the toxic powder on your face doesn't crack before the ceremony ends. Because if it does, someone will see that beneath the mask, you're still alive. And in this world, being alive isn't allowed to show. Being alive means breathing hard, moving, being hungry, thirsty, sweating, yearning to exist by instinct. But all those are seen as dirty, worldly, shameful. The body isn't made to live, it's made to obey, and the ultimate obedience is starvation, not to slim down for beauty, but to starve until you're no longer human, starve until you're like a soul, starve until people believe you've transcended flesh. In the Middle Ages, fasting wasn't just a beauty practice, it was a divine ritual. Some women chose not to eat to prove their faith. They called it fasting for God. And God, of course, never asked if they wanted to eat again. You might think this was just a few ascetic nuns in far-off convents. But no, fasting saints appeared across society. They were rich daughters, pious widows, even young girls taught that refusing food would bring them closer to heaven. Because the body was sin, the stomach was temptation, and hunger was a test from God. There was a girl named Isabeau, 16, with skin white as snow, eyes blue as a winter lake. But when puberty hit, her chest began to develop. Her mother panicked. She took her to the priest, who said, "Breasts are Satan's trap. If you don't want your soul dragged to hell, you must learn not to feed your body." So Isabeau started fasting, first skipping breakfast, then lunch, then dinner. She only drank holy water and nibbled dried rose petals when too hungry. Each time hunger tormented her, she prayed. She saw the pain in her stomach as God knocking at her heart. A year later, she was skin and bones. But those around her called her a living saint. They touched her dress for luck. They touched her ribs to beg for healing. And Isabeau, who never wanted this, kept fasting, because if she ate again, she wouldn't just be mortal, she'd be a heretic. Some starved to death. And when they died, the church held funerals like for martyrs. They built statues, recorded miracles. In history books, they were described with phrases like a lamp burning with faith, a body turned to ash so the soul could shine. But no one wrote about their falling teeth, the sores around their mouths, the breath smelling of blood, or the tremors from low blood sugar. No one wrote about their stomachs roaring in the night, or the tears from hunger while forcing a smile. No one wrote about hands so thin they couldn't hold a wooden spoon. All were replaced by holy images, a woman praying in candlelight, eyes glowing, flawless, without needs. The beauty standard here wasn't a tiny waist or smooth skin. It was looking like you no longer belonged to this world, and fasting was the fastest way there. Some pushed it further. They fasted but cooked for others. They smelled hot soup, felt their tongues bleed from hunger, but said, "I don't need food, I need grace." They turned every stomach cramp into a prayer, and when their bodies began to fade, people didn't see it as danger. They saw it as victory. Because the less a woman existed, the more ideal she was. She took no space. She caused no trouble. She had no needs. She was only silence, submission, and a gaze turned heavenward. That was the ultimate beauty. Beauty that needed no body. And if you think only nobles fasted for God, you're wrong. Common girls copied them, hoping to be accepted into convents or forgiven for something they hadn't done. Some locked themselves in rooms, living on steam from boiled grass, hoping if they were light enough, God would notice. But the scariest part wasn't the fasting. It was when they ate again, and people got angry. A girl was once banished from her village for eating an apple after 3 months of absolute fasting. They called her Lucifer's whore, a wolf in saint's clothing. No one asked why she ate. No one asked how she survived, because a body that dared to demand even just a small fruit was no longer pure. And so, in the shadows of cold stone convents, in villages full of dust and warnings, thousands of female bodies vanished, not from disease, not from war, but because they were taught their bodies must be destroyed to be called good. And if you think that was extreme enough, wait until you learn what they used to bind their bodies: leather, whalebone, burlap, just to force themselves into a shape others called graceful, because after starvation came tightening, and when hunger had worn them down, the corset was the final blade that silently cut away their life. No one really knows why women first started corseting, but by the Middle Ages, it wasn't a choice. It was a ritual. A noble girl reaching puberty would be shaped by her mother and maids. Shaping didn't mean training or care. It meant breaking bones, compressing ribs, cinching waists, binding stomachs, squeezing lungs, teaching the body a lesson. You don't grow naturally. You must curve, shrink, fit the frame they set. And that frame, literally, was a corset of burlap, rope, or whalebone. Some were hand-stitched, some passed down from grandmothers, some smelled of beeswax, old sweat, and dried blood the moment you put them on. You stood in the room, hands gripping a chair. A maid stood behind you, holding a cord like a horsewhip. They began to tighten. 1, 2, 3. You felt your chest compress, like it was under a stone slab. Your lungs had no room to expand. Your stomach was pushed up to your chest. Your liver pressed against your ribs. Every attempt to breathe was a choice. Take a sip of air or faint. When they finished, they turned you around, inspecting. Good enough, they said, because your waist was now smaller than a roasted chicken's thigh, and you could barely stand upright. But that was beauty. A beautiful woman had no excess organs, never ate her fill, never breathed deeply. You had to glide like a ghost, sit without leaning forward, stand without hunching, and above all, laugh silently. Because if you laughed too loud, your stomach muscles would contract, the corset would tighten further, and you'd vomit blood. They called it a woman's accident. There was a girl named Yeveline. She once had a waist under 16 inches, smaller than a vase's neck. One summer day at church, after a 2-hour mass, she collapsed on the stone steps. The reason? She took too deep a breath during a sermon on sin. 3 ribs broke. But her mother wasn't angry. She said, "At least you died with a perfect waist." No one thought to loosen the corset. Instead, more girls mimicked Yeveline. Some tried to tighten until their spines broke. Some used iron cords instead of fabric, believing iron holds the shape better. Some made corsets from raw animal hide, smelly, stiff, cutting into flesh when sweat soaked in. But as long as the waist was small, everyone praised it. Like a fairy, like an angel. No one asked, "Does it hurt?" No one asked, "Can you breathe?" No. The only question was, "How many inches is your waist?" If you answered over 20, they'd look at you like you'd confessed to debauchery. A small waist was virtue. A large waist was indulgence. The ideal woman was one everyone believed might faint at any moment, and they did faint. At weddings, masses, while dancing, while listening to scriptures, people kept smelling salts, chairs, even maids ready to catch them, as if fainting was part of the beauty ritual. But not everyone had someone to catch them. Some fainted and hit their heads on tables. Some vomited blood inside their corsets and suffocated before anyone noticed. Death came not from war or plague, but from trying to have a waist smaller than a breakfast. Sadly, corseting didn't stop at the body. It seeped into the mind. You started feeling wrong for eating more than 2 slices of bread. You feared your body expanding after your period. You looked at others and wondered, why is their waist smaller? And so you tightened more, day after day, until you forgot what it felt like to take a full breath. And if you think only adults endured this, Wait for the next part, where every boy, from the moment he could walk, was molded to a different standard, not to be weak, but to be a tool of war. And men's bodies, though seemingly freer, were also distorted centimeter by centimeter, starting with punches to the back and lessons that men don't feel pain. You're a 6-year-old boy, just grown all your teeth, still learning the alphabet. But if you can't lift a full bucket of water from the village, well, you're called a coward. You cry, a kick lands on your backside. You complain you're tired, your father's hand, big as a coal shovel, slaps your shoulder with a "what's the point of being a boy then?" No one asks if you're sick. No one cares you had a fever yesterday. Your body isn't allowed to be weak, not allowed to be soft, not allowed to be tired, because you're a boy. And being a boy means you must be ready to die. From a young age, you're taught your body is a weapon. If it's not strong enough, you're useless. Boys are shaped, hands molded, shoulders struck, legs pulled, forced to ride horses, lift stones, swing wooden swords. It's not play, it's preparation. You don't train to be healthy. You train to not be killed, and if you're lucky, to die gloriously. Every scar on your body is a certificate of manhood. No scars, you're a coward. Too many scars, you're a fool. The ideal male body in the Middle Ages is tall, broad-shouldered, barrel-chested, flat-stomached, sturdy-legged, with hands that always look ready to strangle someone. That's the model knights, cavalry, guards, even peasants aim for. It doesn't matter if you fight or not. You just can't be weak, because weakness is shame. Don't have that physique. Fine, you can redeem yourself. Work twice as hard, fight better, shout louder, drink more, endure pain better. Break an arm? Don't cry. Bloody nose? Don't wipe it. Fall down? Get up laughing. Just a stumble. There's a young man named Armand in the village. Not short, not thin, not sickly, but his muscles aren't standard. When he strips to bathe in the river, people stare like he's a misshapen jug. Some say, chest flat as a girl's. Others, arms like a weaver's. Though he works hard, cares for his old mother, digs wells, plants, crops, no one acknowledges it. His body doesn't scream warrior, so he joins the militia. A year later, he returns with a scar from forehead to neck. People start calling him Iron Armand, not because he changed, but because his body now bears proof of violence. That's the condition for being a real man. You must be partially destroyed. The ideal male body isn't whole, it's endured. The more battered, the more abused, the more valuable, the less you show emotion, the more respected you are. Hungry? Don't eat greedily. In pain? Don't groan. In love? Don't be soft. Your body can be a slab of meat, a machine, a tool, but never a haven for weakness. Boys are forced into armor at 12, carrying shields bigger than themselves. They sleep on dirt, eat bread, hard as stone, train with swords until their hands bleed. Not because they want to be knights, but because they want to live, want to avoid being called coward. Some boys break their spines training to ride. Some go lame from wrestling. Some die exhausted under the sun, practicing archery. But no one mourns those deaths. They call it dying with honor. And honor, in this era, is sometimes just an excuse to erase all limits of the body. The sad truth, men aren't allowed to hate their bodies, but they can't love them either. They must treat it like a war chariot. No complaints, no breakdowns, no care, just function until it's wrecked. And when it can't fight anymore, it's abandoned. There's an old man named Edric, once a castle guard. After breaking his knee and walking crooked, he was sacked. People stopped greeting him. No one invited him for a beer. He sat in the market corner, holding a stick, face grey as ash. Sometimes kids threw stones at him, shouting, "Broken sword." He didn't respond, just gripped his stick, as if waiting for one last enemy. In this world, if your body can't fight, it has no value. You won't be pitied, only forgotten. And if you think men survive by being brawny, wait for the next part, where every part, from heel to navel, bicep to mole, can be scrutinized, judged, condemned. Because here, beauty isn't just physique, it's a full-body sentence, where every centimeter of flesh can be evidence you're not good enough to exist. And when you accept living in such a world, you realize a harsher truth. Your body is never seen as a whole. It's dissected, fragmented, judged piece by piece, like an animal at a meat market. A chest not full enough, a back not straight enough, a knee with a scar, a rough heel. Just one of those is enough to label you substandard, unfit for a wife, shouldn't have been born. Let's start with the chest, the epitome of contradiction. Women in the Middle Ages can't have large breasts, nor flat ones. Too full is provocative, lustful, tempting men to moral decay. Too flat is unfeminine, boyish. The ideal breast is round, small, slightly raised, soft, like an unripe peach, not too sweet, not too sour. To achieve this, some bind their chests with cloth from puberty, others use plant leaf bandages to keep the shape. Some mothers rub salt on their daughters' breasts to stunt growth, and men, their chests must be broad, defined, screaming, "I've toppled a gate with my shoulder," but absolutely no breasts. A hint of softness or roundness, and you're mocked as half woman, man with tits. Some young men hunch their backs for life, just to hide their chests in thin summer shirts, moving down to the stomach. A woman's stomach can't have fat, but it can't be sunken like a sick person's either. It must be flat, skin smooth, no stretch marks, no scratches. Had a child. Sorry, your stretch marks are proof of failure. Some apply wormwood oil, others burn wax on their stomachs to fade marks. No one calls it torture. They call it preparation for the next pregnancy. Men's stomachs, six-pack abs are ideal, though no one called them that then. The stomach must be firm, chiseled like stone. Got a beer belly, you're lazy, weak, feeding your body more than your soul. And hips. For women, hips must curve, but not too much. Small hips mean hard to birth. Large hips mean harlot. You need hips, just enough for childbearing, not enough to entice. A standard no one can define, but everyone inspects. Men's hips, no one talks about them. But if you walk with a slight sway, whispers follow. Is he really a man? They won't say it loud. They'll just look at you, searching for a flaw in God's design. Thighs can't skip those. Women with thick thighs are plow oxen. Thin thighs are bony, lifeless. Some girls are judged just for footsteps too heavy, though they walk on dirt. Some are forced to wear leather straps around their thighs at night to keep shape. No luck. They move to needles, poking fat to remember pain and avoid eating. Men aren't spared. Thighs must be solid, muscles defined, veins popping, like you just ran 5 miles to kill someone and are ready to run again. Small legs, you're a frail guy. Bow legs, hunchback, straight legs but dark skin, not noble. And knees, a detail you'd think no one cares about, yet scrutinized absurdly. A beautiful knee is scarless, unblemished, unwrinkled. Even after 10 years of kneeling in prayer, some powder their knees. Some wrap them in cloth nightly to keep skin taut. Some girls make knee wash from rosewater and bone ash for a natural glow. Men's knees must be large, prominent, like city gate hinges. But a scar from falling, not in battle. You're clumsy, can't walk right. And heels, the part no one sees, yet a defining marker. Women's heels must be pink, smooth, soft, no cracks. Some girls' mothers make them soak their feet nightly in white wine with lotus seeds to keep elegance. Rough heels are proof of a field-running woman. Men's heels must be thick, cracked, calloused, but in a rugged way, not filthy. A wrong foot smell. You're a joke. And hands. Women's hands must be slender, fingers uncalloused, nails clean, but not too long. That's lazy. Men's hands must be veined, calloused, too long nails. Lazy guy. Too short? Brute. Beards for men. You must have one, but not too thick. For women, one hair is a sign of witchcraft. Even eyebrows have standards. High, arched, thin as a crescent moon. Too bushy. Shave. Shave too much by mistake. Glue on dried leaves for balance. Every body part is a test, and you always fail. No part of you is normal. Only too little, too much, or too wrong. You look in the mirror, if you're lucky to have one, and wonder, which part of me will be judged today? Then you judge yourself first. It's less humiliating that way. But the cruelest part isn't over, because some things you can't control, like pimples, like moles, like birthmarks. And in the Middle Ages, Those tiny things could make people believe you're tied to the devil, and so your body isn't just ugly, it's cursed. But that's for the next part. For now, look in the mirror again, if you dare, because sometimes a red spot on your cheek is enough for the village to think you need an exorcism. It's not a joke, it's a bitter truth. In the Middle Ages, your skin doesn't just reflect health or age, it's a spiritual map, a measure of your soul's purity, proof of whether you belong to heaven or hell. And if you get a pimple, whether from heat, an insect bite, or just your period, you could be seen as harboring a demon. A pimple isn't a biological issue. It's a sign of being touched by dark forces. A tiny pustule on your cheek, a red dot on your neck, or a few small back pimples are enough to make people look at you like you've drunk newborn blood. Some priests believe pimples are the devil's entryway. They say, unclear skin, unclean heart. Dare to argue. You're proving your guilt. Many women are dragged to church, touched on the face before a crowd, pointed at, and shouted, "Here, the mark of sin." One girl was locked in a chicken coop for 3 days, just for water blisters around her chin, after harvest. A boy was expelled from Bible class for a red spot on his back, from straw allergy, but they called it a sign of an evil heart. And then there's moles. A mole on your cheek, maybe the devil's third eye, on your hand. Sign a witch, signed a blood pact. On your back, surely lay with a werewolf. No one checks medical facts. No one asks if you ate something odd yesterday. Looking wrong is enough to be condemned. Some are dragged to the market square, heads shaved, doused with holy water, locked up for 3 days without food or drink, to see if the demon leaves. Some don't survive and die, and that death is proof. See, their soul was fully consumed. In surviving witch trial records, hundreds are accused just for warts. Warts, a common skin condition, get the grandiose name, gates to hell. People believe demons come at night, lick your skin, leaving bumps as marks, and so you, never having left your tiny village, suddenly become Satan's minion. Some have birthmarks, a pink or brown splotch, oddly shaped, completely harmless biologically. But on your chest, your heart's been claimed by evil. On your neck, where demons whisper. On your thigh, where lust resides. There's a woman named Margaret, born with a purple birthmark on her left wrist. As a young woman, she hid it under sleeves. But one day, dropping a water bucket, her sleeve slipped. A child saw it, screamed, "Demon." 2 days later, she was hauled to a local court. They scraped her birthmark with a red-hot iron blade. When she screamed, they said it was the demon writhing. When she fainted from pain, they said, "It's playing dead." She survived, but no one hired her anymore. No one dared approach. Even village dogs were pulled away when she passed. And the heartbreaking part, no one remembered her name. They just called her Demon Mark Woman. Not just pimples, warts, or moles, even freckles, scratches, old scars are suspect. A scar on your right hand, shook hands with the devil, on your forehead, visited by demons in dreams. Some children born with birthmarks are taken from their mothers, locked in sheds, lest they spread evil to the village. The worst part, you can't erase those marks. No acne cream, no scar-fading lotion, no dermatologist, just kitchen ash, cow urine, and prayers or confessions. Some, in desperation, burn pimples with hot iron. Some scratch their faces bloody with nails. Some cut off moles with razors and smear mud, hoping they won't regrow. But if that leaves a scar, you're still accused of hiding evidence. No escape. Your body is permanent proof. In a world where everyone fears visible ugliness, your skin, slightly dry, slightly red, slightly different, is enough to make you a target. Scarier still, it's not just the church, it's your neighbors, the baker woman, the blacksmith, the 5-year-old who heard their mother say pimples are dirty and repeats it like scripture. And if you think it stops at skin, brace yourself, because the only thing judged more than skin is what you eat to make it. And in that world, where a pimple can signal a demon, a piece of bread you eat at breakfast can be why your whole body is deemed sinful flesh. Because in the Middle Ages, food isn't just a need, it's evidence. Evidence you're greedy, weak, faithless. Every bite of bread, sip of soup, every time your stomach swells from being full, is scrutinized like you've signed a pact with Satan. Eat too much, glutton. Eat too little, pretentious. Eat on time, in moderation, must be hiding something. In the end, the ideal diet is as little as possible, as painful as possible, as bad as possible. The more praised, the most virtuous food, moldy bread, not expired bread, literally moldy, black bread, hard as stone, left for weeks until green and white mold grows, then eaten. Because people believe eating this shows humility. Grimace when you bite. You're weak in faith. Dare to toss a piece with ants. You're insulting creation. You can't even pick the less moldy bits. You must eat the dirtiest, smelliest, hardest to swallow part, and smile like it's the best meal of your life. A virtuous person's meal is just dry bread, a bowl of plain water, if you're lucky, no worms, and a few raw black beans. Meat is luxury. Milk is risky. Butter makes you fat, and fat is sin. The blander you eat, the less seasoned, the less satisfied, the closer to heaven. There's a girl named Ellis, daughter of a blacksmith. After hearing the priest say, "Those who live by taste die in spirit," she vowed to eat one meal a day, just boiled unsalted greens. She lost weight, so thin she couldn't sit long, attending mass on the floor. But people called her the saint of the forge. When she could no longer walk, the priest visited, saying, "You're living as God wants." When she died, they didn't say, "She starved." They said, "She was welcomed where food isn't needed." Of course, not everyone could follow such austerity. But even common folk, starving, had to pretend they ate in moderation. Show too much hunger. You're a starving dog. Eat fast. You're a pig in a sty. Eat in secret. You're stealing God's bread, and especially if you're a woman. Enjoying food is seductive. A wife was beaten by her husband for licking her lips over soup. A girl's betrothal was cancelled for chewing too loudly. People believe a proper woman eats like she's praying. Slow, small, leaving no trace. Leave crumbs. Wasting grace. Clean your bowl. Greedy. Look at someone else's plate. Covetous. And covetousness is a deadly sin. The strictest monks spend hours preaching that eating is just to sustain the body's necessary existence. No more. They pray while eating. Gargle salt water to dull taste. Punish each other by skipping meals. They sit before food without touching it, training willpower. Some eat so silently, you can hear their stomachs growl from hunger. But the odd thing, though everyone's forced to eat little, the diet is full of filth. Vegetables rot before cooking. Bread is mixed with dirt to add weight. Drinking water is full of worm eggs, rat droppings, mold dust. But when you get diarrhea, no one blames the food. They say, "You lack faith." Food is never at fault. The eater is always guilty. Stomachache? Pray. Vomiting blood? You must have thought of eating in secret. One man was forced by his confessor to fast 3 days for dreaming of a feast. Just dreaming, not eating. And punishment is worse if you're ugly, because an ugly person eating well is mocking God. You only deserve food if you're worthy. Worthy means beautiful by standard, holy by standard, and hungry by standard. Meanwhile, the rich feast. Lavishly, they powder their skin white, corset their waists, then eat stuffed quail, sugar-coated pastries, honeyed wine, but they eat behind curtains, and they pay priests to bless the food first, as if that erases the sin of fat and sugar. And you have a moldy black loaf and a prayer looping in your head. Please, let me not be hungry anymore. But prayer doesn't help if your body odor rises after a week of spoiled vegetable soup and sleeping on moldy straw, because the next part reveals something even scarier: smell. And in the Middle Ages, if you don't smell like an angel, you're from hell. But before your body odor can speak, your skin is judged first. Every morning, you wake not asking what you'll do today, but is my skin white enough? In the Middle Ages, white isn't just a skin color, it's a metaphysical state. Skin white as candle wax, cold moonlight, untouched paper. That's skin worthy of existence. The closer your skin is to death, the more people praise you for living beautifully. But if you have rosy, tanned, or God forbid, freckled skin, you're a field worker, a lewd sort, hot-blooded, and hot blood is sin. So how do you achieve that ideal whiteness? The answer: lead, not jewelry metal. Lead powder, a white paste ground from a mineral called ceruse, mixed with vinegar, oil, sometimes overnight fermented urine, to make a thick, long-lasting, and highly toxic mixture. You apply it to your face like modern foundation. 1 thin layer, not enough. 2, getting there. 3, good. You're starting to look dead. That lead doesn't just whiten, it smooths. It covers pores, blemishes, expressions. You're no longer you, you're a breathing wax statue. And that's beautiful. But using lead isn't just apply and done. You must maintain it. After a few hours, the powder cracks because you dared move your face. A frown flakes your cheeks. A smile breaks the chin cover. So you learn to live expressionless. Breathe lightly. Speak little. Look distant. Smile with your eyes, if you must smile. Because if the lead cracks, people see your real skin underneath. And that's public humiliations. Worse, lead eats skin. After weeks of continuous use, small sores appear. Skin reddens, burns, itches. You scratch, skin peels. Don't scratch, it festers. So what do? Apply more lead to hide the sores, and the sores spread. A vicious cycle, but everyone does it, from prostitutes to queens, from tailors' wives to noble women.
Wait, you're not white. You're not pure.
Not pure. No husband. No husband. No value. There's a girl named Maud, tanned from her Mediterranean mother. Friends mocked her as a crow in a dress. Maud started using lead at 13. By 16, her face had pus-filled pimples, swollen red, lips always cracked, gums bleeding, but she kept applying. One day she fainted at the market. People blamed fasting to keep her figure. No one mentioned the lead thick as wall plaster. No one asked why her lips were purple. No one cared, because they saw one thing: she dared show her real skin color. Even men, though not openly wearing makeup, were affected. Some used rice powder to look bright, scholarly. Some washed faces with ash water, ice water, alcohol water. As long as it's white, white as prayer, white as church, white as the sinless. But skin doesn't just need to be white, it must be smooth, flawless, mirror-like. So people shave facial hair with rusty blades, rub cheeks with pumice stones, use beeswax and honey to pluck arm hair. Who's in pain? No one asks. Who's burning? Just endure. As long as the skin doesn't show life. Beautiful skin is bloodless skin. Ideal skin is skin you're afraid to touch. And if your skin can't be white, you hide it. Under headscarves, under veils, under long-sleeved, high-necked dresses. Some never let anyone see their wrists, because the skin there is darker than their face. Some wear silk gloves year-round, even in summer. Some smear beeswax on hands to look polished as saint statues, and everyone pretends it's normal. But no one dares smell, because the real smell of lead, wax, trapped sweat in thick fabric, is something no angel would carry. A heavy, sour smell, sometimes tinged with blood. But you still smile, because people only need to see white skin. Smell? You might be judged for that, and that's the next hell. Because after your skin is judged by every shade, the next thing they scrutinize is your body odor. And in this world, if you dare smell like a living person, you're treated as if you're rotting from within. But before anyone can smell you, they see you, or rather, they see the dress you're wearing. And in the Middle Ages, a dress isn't just clothing, it's a fabric coffin. You live in it, move in it, are trapped in it, and sometimes die in it. A beautiful dress isn't for breathing easily, not for walking freely, not for living comfortably, but to make you look like you're about to float. The wider the dress, the more noble you are. The longer, the more virtuous. The more layers, the heavier, the more stifling. The more it's praised as proper. And then you realize you're standing in a dress, nearly as heavy as your body. 4 layers of petticoats. A corset, squeezing like torture. A main dress of thick velvet, embroidered with gold thread. An outer cloak to complete the aura. Over 20 kilograms of fabric, wrapped around a body that hasn't eaten since morning. You can't sit. There are chairs, but the dress doesn't allow it. If you try, the dress balloons like an air sac. People will see the inner hem, deemed lewd. If you sit carelessly, the steel boning in the dress folds, stabbing your hip. Some have bled from it. So you stand. Stand through a 2-hour ceremony. Stand while the priest preaches humility. Stand at feasts, or rather, just touch your lips to a cup of water, because bending to eat is unrefined. All evening, you can't move more than 3 steps. Turning means rotating the entire dress. Walking means lifting it like carrying a sleeping child. And when someone approaches, you must smile, as if you're not about to faint. But one thing you can't stop, you sweat. No one taught you how to keep the smell in that fabric. They just told you to dab on rose oil, sprinkle lavender ash mixed with white wine, hang mint leaves in your undergarments. But it only lasts a few hours. After that, your sweat, mixed with your breath, hunger, and stress, rises like steam in a slaughterhouse boiler. You don't dare lift a hand to scratch. Don't dare wipe your forehead. Don't dare bend. You just stand straight like a statue and hope the person next to you doesn't smell it. There was a girl named Alex, daughter of a wealthy merchant. At her wedding, she wore a custom dress from Flanders, crimson, gold-embroidered, floor-length, nearly 30 kilograms. She stood under the midday sun for almost 3 hours. When the priest asked if she accepted her husband, she only nodded, unable to speak. 5 minutes later, she collapsed like a felled log. People thought she was overcome with emotion, but her body was dehydrated, 2 ribs broken from overtight corseting, and her feet slightly gangrenous from lack of circulation. She survived. But afterward, she only wore nun's robes. People said she was enlightened, but really, she was scared of dying again, in a dress that wouldn't let her breathe. And the cruel irony, the nobler you are, the more elaborate the dress. The higher your status, the tighter you're bound to the image of an earthly angel, a beautiful, silent creature, never tired, never hot, needing nothing but to stand there and be beautiful. Every step in that dress is a battle, with breathing, with gravity, with the urge to scream from numb legs. But you can't open your mouth, can't show anything, because one wrong move, dress twisted, sleeve askew, hair mussed, is enough to be gossiped about for a month. They won't mention your eyes, won't mention your words. They'll only remember the time you showed muddy shoes stepping onto the church steps. And if you think you can take the dress off after the ceremony, you don't understand. Removing the dress is a ritual too. It takes at least 2 maids. Each layer must be folded immediately, not touching the floor. If you sigh in relief, people hear and call you unrefined. If you mutter, "God, it's hot," you've just admitted you're unfit to be a woman. The dress meant to honor beauty becomes a prison, and you have no key. You have 2 choices, wear it or be shunned. And if you're a man thinking you escaped this, wait until you're invited to a royal feast where a velvet doublet can choke you tighter than a rope. But that's for the next part. For now, keep your back straight, eyes distant, lips pursed, and stand a few more minutes in the dress you didn't choose, because that's the price of being called beautiful. But beautiful is never enough. Because even when you've cinched your waist to suffocation, worn a dress to broken bones, made your skin corpse white, smelled like an angel, people still want you to add another layer of pretense. And that's where makeup begins. Not the modern kind, with mirrors, brushes, palettes, and warm lighting. No, in the Middle Ages, makeup is surgery without a knife, done in the dark, with materials that can kill you slowly but surely. And the greatest irony, you do it without a mirror. Most women don't have one. A mirror, seemingly obvious, is a luxury for high nobility. So you apply powder by feel, with fingers, with maid's advice if they're honest enough not to lie out of fear of punishment. You smear lead powder on your cheeks, not knowing if it's uneven. Dab more white powder on your forehead, nose, chin. Use a stick to apply lipstick from cochineal, mixed with pig's blood. Sometimes you miss, and your cheek looks slapped. Sometimes you smudge, and your lips look twisted by a stroke. But you go out, you smile. Because if you don't wear makeup, you're called country girl, bare-faced, lacking self-respect. And if you do it wrong, people laugh. But at least you tried. And trying, in this society, is sometimes praised more than actual success. The makeup ingredients are a long list of things banned today. Lead powder, of course, but also camphor, causing hallucinations. Face wash from bone ash, mixed with wine, drying skin to cracks. Powdered deer antler, for shine. Celery seed oil for moisture, and lipstick. A mix of sheep fat, red ochre, and blood. Some women prick their fingertips, mix a few drops of blood with lipstick for a natural color. They call it the blood of the beauty goddess. But really, it's the blood of desperation. You might wonder, why do this if no one knows what you look like? Exactly, because without mirrors, you live by others' gazes. Every frown from your mother, every giggle from a neighbor, every glance at your neck as you pass the square, they're your mirrors, and you never know how you look. You only know you're not enough. There was a young woman named Beatrix, called the Flower of the East, but one day, her maid dropped the powder box. Beatrix went out barefaced for the first time in 6 years. Men didn't recognize her. Women whispered, "She looks so ordinary." That night, she locked herself in her room. A week later, she hired a craftsman to make a bronze mirror, the only thing she owned. It was cloudy, distorted, reflecting her like a ghost, but she looked at it daily. Until one day, she smashed it. People said she went mad from heartbreak. No, she just saw her real face for the first time after years of being covered. And it didn't match the world's praise. Not her mother's praise. Not the marriage proposals. Not anything. It was the face of an ordinary girl, something society didn't allow, because women here can't be ordinary. You're either a fairy or a monster, no in between. And makeup, in this world, isn't about beauty. It's disguise, concealment, role-playing, showing you know your place in the social order, know how to respect those who look, know how to endure. And if you think men don't wear makeup, you're wrong. Some kings use red lipstick to show power. Some gentlemen apply rouge to look youthfully healthy. But they're not called fake, they're called refined. And you, one wrong shade, and you're a vixen. Smudge your eyeliner. Oh wait, no eyeliner. But let Cole run from crying. You're making a scene for attention. So you learn to make up your soul too. You hide everything inside. Fake smile, sweet voice, just right bow. Compliment others, to be complimented back. And slowly you become the powder you apply each morning. You don't know who's beneath it anymore. That's the scariest part. But if you think that's the end of suffering, wait for the next part. Because in this world, you don't just have to be beautiful. You have to be beautiful without knowing it. Dare to think you're beautiful, and you're punished. Not beautiful enough, and you're forgotten. So brace for the cruelest contradiction your body endures, living in a society where beauty is a weapon, and you're not allowed to wield it. But don't think only women are trapped in that paradox, because men in this era also stand before mirrors, cinch waists, suffer for standards. They don't say it. No one makes them complain. But if you think beauty is a privilege or burden just for women, you've never seen a 14th century gentleman prepare for a feast. Imagine you're a man of the educated class, not even noble, just ambitious. Appearance is the first bridge you cross. And no, you can't be naturally handsome. That's for gods. You mortal must use every tool, every trick, sometimes things that could kill you, just to look up to standard. Your hair must be long, glossy, lightly curled, parted perfectly. Naturally curly, wash it with wood ash. Too straight, comb it with pig fat and honey. You need a beard, but not too much. A goatee is ideal. Too long is barbaric. Clean shaven is lewd. And never have a mustache without a chin beard. It looks like a jester. And clothing, a geometric puzzle. You wear a tight doublet, cinched at the waist with a leather belt, a long floor-length cloak, and a hat tall as a chimney, to add visual height. Shoes must be pointed. The longer the toe, the more it proves you're well off. Some shoes have toes so long they're tied to your trousers to avoid tripping. Imagine a man trying to walk dignified in a tight, bulky, heavy, hot outfit, yet looking effortless. And you'll understand beauty is a refined form of torture. A record tells of Count Etienne de Vienne, who spent nearly 2 hours each morning on his hair and outfit. He had 4 servants. 1 polished shoes, 1 curled hair, 1 dressed him, 1 tied his belt. But in public, he only smiled lightly and said, "Men don't need much. That's medieval valor. You can adorn yourself, but no one can see you need it. You can spend half your fortune on a velvet doublet, but if asked, you say, 'My mother sewed it.' You can dab powder on your cheeks to look rosy, but if caught, you say, 'I just went for a walk.' And if you dare linger before a mirror too long, you're effeminate, unmanly, prissier than a girl. Some are mocked for staring in a mirror over 5 minutes. Some are expelled from the army for combing their hair 3 times a day with a wooden comb. From then on, the mirror, though precious, becomes an enemy. Men want to look, but must pretend they don't. Want to be handsome, but act like they don't care. Want praise, but reject it, as if embarrassed. Every morning, you step out, it's a performance, playing a naturally cool man. But you know one slip, seam off, hair flat on one side, hat tilted, and you'll be gossiped about like a murderer. Medieval male beauty is assumed. You must have it innately, showing no effort. Fail, no one pities you. They'll call you weak, lesser, worthless. A poor blacksmith can be respected for strength, but dress poorly, he's crude. A brilliant scholar, if his face is too fat or voice too high, he's cowardly. And this doesn't just apply to kings. It applies to every man daring to enter society's temple. Soldier, merchant, cleric, laborer, you're judged like you're in a contest. And you never know who's judging. Maybe the fruit seller girl, maybe the priest, maybe the old woman knitting at the market corner. But they share one thing, a judging gaze. And in this world, that gaze is the scale between worthy of respect and should be discarded. Men think they're free, but they're caged in the unspoken standard, not forced to wear lipstick, but forced to have a sharp jawline, not forced to wear dresses, but forced to have broad shoulders, not forced to walk lightly, but forced to never be weak. They live in constant fear, fear of being caught trying. And in a world worshipping natural masculinity, nothing's more shameful than trying to be a man. But if you think that pressure is only physical, wait for the next part, where every action, every bow, every breath is labeled. And when you can't control how you appear to the world, even your breath can be deemed too feminine. But if your breath is monitored, then your body odor, something you can't hide, can't hold, can't suppress, is the final accusing evidence. And in the Middle Ages, that sinful flesh has a name: stench. Stench isn't just about hygiene, not just from working, sweating, or not bathing, because winter's too cold. Stench is the physical sign of a filthy soul. The more your body reeks, the more it sweats, the more it smells, the closer you are to sin, to demons, to animals. Armpit odor, proof of lust. Smelly feet, sign of laziness. Bad breath, a liar's mark. Body odor isn't allowed to exist, and if it does, you're responsible. You can't blame the climate, the food, genetics. No, if you stink, you've done something to make your body betray you. Some mothers make their daughters rub kitchen ash into their armpits every morning. Some men scrub raw salt into their souls until they bleed to keep a masculine smell. One priest suggested a girl drink cow urine for 3 days to purify from within. Everything is tried, except understanding that humans have odors. Because odor is animal, animals have no soul, and no soul means not worthy of living. Bathing, not everyone's allowed. In many places, frequent bathing is seen as vain, lustful. Bathing means touching your body, looking at it, cleaning it, meaning obsessing over it. Some were jilted for admitting they liked soaking in warm water. People said, those who love water love flesh, and loving flesh is a shortcut to hell. But not bathing means odor persists, so people learn to mask it. Aromatic leaves stuffed in clothes, perfume sprinkled in hair, flour-soaked cloth and shoes. But as we know, fragrance is a double-edged sword. Too fragrant is seductive. Wrong scent is aping nobility. Fragrance mixed with stink is hiding sin. So, you can't stink, but you can't smell too good either. You must reach a scent state, just right, not distinct, not strong, not lingering too long, like a prayer at the end of Mass. There was a young man named Luke, a physician's son. He made a spray from orange peel and vinegar. Mild, pleasant, but after 3 compliments of smelling like a king, he was shunned. They said, Luke is scheming. Luke is seducing. Luke doesn't smell like our village men. One morning, his spray bottle was found smashed. That night, cow dung was thrown at his window. No reason needed. They just needed him to smell different. And women, double the pressure. If they stink, they're bad girls. If they smell good, they're bad girls hiding it. The ideal woman has no scent, leaves no trace, doesn't linger in the air. She should pass like a breeze, like incense at a baptism, gone before anyone feels it clearly. Some girls were forced to steam themselves with herbal smoke weekly, standing over boiling pots, draped in cloth, breathing until sweat poured, not to detox, but to force the smell out. But everyone masking odor knows one thing. Nothing holds a scent long. You can steam, sprinkle, spray, even pray. But one heat wave, one heartbeat, one sprint, and your real body odor returns like a debt collector. And then come the looks, the wrinkled nose, the sidelong glance, the step back. Those small things tell you, you failed. No one needs to say it. They just smell, and you feel ashamed. Not because you have a scent, but because you're taught that scent isn't human. It's a sign of deviance, a sign of moral failure, a sign you didn't try hard enough to be worthy of existing. A beautiful person leaves nothing behind when they leave a room. No sound, no smell, no feeling. If you pass and someone feels comfort, you're wrong. If they feel discomfort, you're worse. If they feel nothing, you're right. And to achieve that nothing, many use their bodies as labs for all sorts of strange substances: skin-eating tree resin, alkali-mixed perfume, wine infused with fermented wildflowers, gone moldy. Some break their noses, inhaling overpowering blends. Some get rashes all over. Some faint from hours in enclosed rooms with strong scents, but they keep doing it. Because in the Middle Ages, others' noses matter more than your health. And if you think things get easier as you age, you're wrong. Aging doesn't free you from standards. It just makes you compared to your younger self and judged as declining, losing the scent of virtue. But that's for the next part, where beauty not only doesn't forgive age, but punishes it with absolute oblivion. For now, if you smell something less than fragrant around you, don't breathe too hard, because in this world, that breath might be why you're kicked out of the feast. But even if you don't breathe, don't move, don't smell, people will find something else to judge: your hair. The natural crown on your head, seemingly harmless, is one of the fiercest battlegrounds in the fight for beauty standards. Because in the Middle Ages, hair isn't just hair, it's honor, status, virtue, a gateway to your entire character. And sadly, the most beautiful hair is fake. If you're a woman, your hair must be long, glossy, thick, light-colored. Blonde is ideal, light brown acceptable, black, hide it. If you're a man, hair must be thick, slightly wavy, not messy, falling lightly over the forehead like a pensive saint, and crucially, natural. But who's born to standard? Thin hair, wrong. Falling hair, despised. Naturally curly, like a heretic. Too straight, cold, unapproachable. Dandruff, can't keep clean. Hair isn't just judged by appearance, but smell. You can be clean, but if your hair doesn't smell good, you're filthy. Some mothers soak their daughter's hair in rose water, fermented for 3 days, just to smell right for the ceremony. But even if you're lucky with naturally beautiful hair, it's not enough, because hair must always be beautiful. Morning, noon, night, even in sleep. Real hair can't do that. So, people use wigs. No one says it, but everyone knows. Wigs made from real hair, of prostitutes, orphans, the dead, braided, bleached, dyed, curled, dried in fragrant smoke, then sewn into real hair with thread or worn like a hat. A middle-class lady might wear 3 layers of hair, real hair, woven in wig, outer wig. Imagine, in summer, how hot that head is. But who cares? What matters is, when you step outside, the breeze flows through your hair, like a ripe wheat field. There was a girl named Isabeau, with sparse hair like wisps of cloud, once rejected for marriage because her hair didn't cover her ears. One day, she found a discarded noble's wig. She wove it into her hair, carefully hiding it. That night, she went to church. People looked at her like a goddess. But halfway through, from sweat and cheap perfume oil, the wig fell to the floor. The crowd froze. Some laughed. Some made the sign of the cross. Some said, "She's a witch wearing dead people's hair." She was dragged from the church, locked up for 3 days. After that, no one looked at her twice. She wasn't just the thin-haired girl anymore. She was the deceiver by her head. Not just women, men used wigs too. Some padded hair with wool, straw. Some glued wigs with tree sap. One bishop used rabbit skin to attach hair to his bald crown. But the key, no one could know. Wigs were the biggest secret, like not breathing when someone's near, like using ash for powder. All masks. And if someone pulls that mask off, you're banished. Our hair is also a moral symbol. Short hair, rebel. Loose hair, wanton. Wrong braid, copying heathens. Women with beautiful hair, are touched by God, but too beautiful. They're forced to cover it because it tempts. So you spend your life tending your hair, then are told to hide it. Some say true beauty is what no one sees. So why maintain it so much? Everyone thinks it, but no one dares ask aloud. Hair also ties to the afterlife. People believe if you die with messy hair, demons will drag your soul to hell by those strands. So, some near death ask loved ones to comb their hair. An old woman died in winter, hair tangled. Her daughter washed it with ice water so she could reach heaven. But if you die with a wig on, no one's sure where your soul goes. Maybe God won't recognize you because it's not your hair. So you live between extremes. Real hair isn't beautiful enough. Fake hair isn't holy enough. And you stuck between them can only stay silent, wear borrowed beauty, and pretend it's yours. But eventually, even you forget what your real hair looks like. That's the scariest part. But if hair is a big issue, you don't know what will make a whole village rise against you. Change. Because when you dare to be different, even slightly, you're not just other, you're a threat. And the next part will tell you what happens when someone dares to wear a different color, style their hair differently, live differently, in a society demanding everyone be as uniform as a troupe of puppets. But sometimes, you don't try to be different, you don't rebel, you don't wear the wrong color, you don't say the wrong words, you're just yourself, a person with a body, blood, cycles, hormones, and that's enough to be punished. Welcome to one of the greatest sins you can't hide, menstruation. In the Middle Ages, there's no proper word for it. They call it anything. Filthy flow, cursed blood, the devil's mark, a reminder of Eve's original sin. Menstrual blood isn't biological, it's metaphysical. It's proof you're weak, an unclean vessel, a rusty chalice holding ancestral sin. And it must be hidden, not just with cloth, but with silence. Wince from cramps, faking it. Move slowly from a stiff back, attitude. Ask to skip a festival because of heavy bleeding, lazy. But if you accidentally stain a church pew with a drop of blood, defiling the holy, some women are forced to kneel and scrub the pew with holy water for 2 hours just because their period came unexpectedly. No one asks why. They just see the blood and recoil like you're a plague. No sanitary pads, just rags, straw, leaves. Some places use sawdust wrapped in cloth. Some have nothing, just clamp their skirts tight between their thighs and pray it doesn't leak. If it does, you're looked at like you spilled the Eucharist wine. And then there's the belly. Menstruation doesn't just bring blood, it brings bloating, gas, short breaths. Your belly protrudes even if you haven't eaten. And in this society, a belly bulging at the wrong time is a dangerous sign. Slightly round, pregnant, not pregnant, then a witch, not a witch, or gluttonous, not gluttonous, must be cursed. You can't have a soft belly. It must be flat. Flat like a baked loaf pressed in the oven. Flat like the silence when someone dares mention a uterus. There was a girl named Coline, so cramped she couldn't stand straight during a saint's procession. Her belly bloated from gas. Rumors spread. She's hiding stones to disrupt the church's aura. They made her lie flat in a courtyard, inspecting her belly by candlelight. They found nothing, but the rumor was enough. From that day, she was banned from nearing the altar. No one approached her. Her mother, seeking medicine, was chased from the apothecary, all because of a bloated belly from menstruation. You learn to keep your belly silent, hold your breath, pinch the corset, hunch to hide the small bulge under your skirt. Some starve 3 days before their period to ensure their belly doesn't rebel. Some drink bitter dried leaf brews, tasting like old blood, to cleanse the wound before anyone sees it working. Worst of all, you can't speak about what's happening. No one teaches girls how to handle menstrual blood. They just say, it's time, and hand you a rag. It's not just shame, it's fear. Fear of being labeled, fear of being shunned, fear of being cast out. Because if you lose control, they don't think you lack knowledge. They think you lack morality. Menstrual blood becomes sinful blood. Cramps become signs of demonic possession, and a round belly becomes evidence for all sorts of false conclusions. And if you're pregnant without a husband, that belly is a death sentence. They won't ask, why? They'll ask, from whom? No answer, they'll pick a name, or say you, self-conceived through sin. Some were buried alive, just for an unusually large belly. No one sought the reason. Later, her exhumed body revealed, a sight. But who cared then? In this world, every sign can be misread. Every biological flaw can become a crime. But your body keeps signaling. It's a living machine. It changes, it leaks, it reacts. And this society, instead of learning to understand it, learns to punish it. Punishes the cramps, punishes the swelling, punishes even the silence. You learn to shrink within your dress, hiding every movement of your belly, your womb, your hormones. But inside, you're still a flowing world. And that flow, even if just blood signaling ovulation, can make you a target. Because here, blood is never innocent. And a belly, if not flat, is an indictment. But if you think menstrual pain is the worst, wait for the next part, where pain isn't cyclical but constant, where women must grit their teeth through deep, silent, deadly pain, in darkness, in quiet, to death. Because the cruelest part of the Middle Ages isn't just the rigid beauty standards, but this, your body, from birth to death, was never truly yours. You're born, and the first person to touch your body doesn't give you ownership, but teaches you. This part, hide it. That part, preserve it. This part, never decide for yourself. Every bone, muscle, breath is seen as belonging to others. Parents, priests, husbands, the village, even God. And each demands the right to control your body, saying, it's for your good. Good is cutting your hair to avoid seduction. Good is starving you to keep you pure. Good is tying your hands at night to stop self-exploration. Good is when you're beaten, they say. It's how God teaches the wayward. Your body was never a home. It's a battlefield, a possession, a canvas for others to paint with fear, contempt, desire, and hypocrisy. There was a girl named Marguerite, 16, dragged to the market to be checked for virginity, not because she sinned, but because her betrothed, a selfish noble's son, wanted certainty. A midwife and 2 old soldiers' wives were called. They pulled her into a canvas tent, checked with hands, eyes, prayers. When they found no clear hymen, they declared her impure. The wedding was cancelled. Marguerite was returned to her family, like a dented good. Her mother didn't ask if it was true. She just cried, "You shamed us." Her father beat her. The village looked at her like she'd killed Christ, all for a thin membrane in her body that could break from riding, climbing, or just not exist. But no one cared to know. They just judged. Not just virginity, but every bodily function is measured. Too tall, arrogant. Too short, lacking grace. Too thin, deceitful. Too fat, gluttonous. Hairy arms, manly. No arm hair, weak fertility. Big hips, lustful. Flat hips, can't bear children. Nothing is enough. And when you protest saying, "This is my body," they reply, "No, it's God's gift. And God doesn't let you misuse it." So you're stripped, bit by bit. No one names your parts correctly. Breasts are jade hills, things to conceal. Vulva is the unclean place. Uterus is the birthing machine. Nothing is called by its biological function. Everything is cloaked in superstition and control. Then they come, with ropes, candles, straw, and eyes blazing with righteousness. Some women are burned just for being too beautiful. Beauty that makes men lust, women jealous, and priests unsure who to confess to. But too ugly, also deadly, because the devil hides in the ugliest places. So where's the escape? In the middle, in the just right appearance. Not dazzling, not decrepit, not stand out, not hidden. But what's just right? No one knows. No one defines it. Every village, town, priest, group has a different just right. So you live in constant dread. Safe today, tomorrow you might be drowned in a well to test. If you float. If you float, you're a witch. If you sink, you die, but are exonerated. There was a young woman named Ghislaine, living quietly. She did nothing wrong. But one summer, after a bad harvest, villagers whispered, "Ghislaine's still fair and rosy. Something's off." They came to her house, found 3 jars of lavender skin cream from her mother. Conclusion, beauty by witchcraft. They tied her up. No trial needed. The next day she was ash. No one mentioned her again, except to warn daughters, don't be vain like Ghislaine. That's the price of not being ugly enough. But no one teaches you how to be ugly enough. They just punish when you're wrong. They say, beauty is God's, but if you're prettier than the Lord's daughter, provocative, care for yourself, witch, go barefaced, arrogant, you spin through traps, each named with noble words, virtue, humility, decency, submission. But really, they're just tools to hide society's insecurity. The more chaotic, the hungrier, the more they need someone to burn. And you, with a real body, real emotions, real cycles, are the perfect target. Some women learn to become invisible. They never look anyone in the eye. Always wear grey, brown, beige. Never wear makeup, but always keep their face clean. Never go out at night. Never walk faster than men. Never speak loudly. Never react. They're shadows, and that's how they survive. But is surviving living? When you must stifle every unique part of yourself to exist, what's left is barely you. You live, yes, but you're no longer a being. You're a shell, a breathing mannequin. A lesson, walking among the crowd. They used to say, women brought the first sin into the world, and so, women's bodies are always watched, judged, controlled, and when needed, sacrificed. You're not a person. You're a symbol, a place for the community to dump blame when crops fail. Plagues rise, or men sin, and your beauty, if it crosses their imagined line, is the kindling. Perhaps the bitterest part. You're never asked what you want to be pretty, sin, want to be ugly, also sin, want to be normal, not trying hard enough. So you live with one foot on the ashes of those before you, the other trembling, wondering when it's your turn. But if you think only the burned are victims, wait for the next part. Because even if you're not torched in the square, your body can still be killed piece by piece, every day, by invisible expectations. And that hurts more than fire. And you've just served your purpose. You've given birth, saved a life, survived burning pain, your body limp like a cloth stretched beyond repair. But instead of rest, gratitude, or healing, you face a silent indictment. You're not what you used to be. Welcome to the next stage of medieval bodily hell, where a woman's postpartum body is no longer seen as human, but as a used dress, worn out. From the moment the child is born, you're put on a scale, not to check your health, but to measure how much woman you have left. Is your belly still taut? Has your face darkened? Are your breasts sagging? Is your gait still light? The irony is, everyone knows what you've been through, but no one cares. Your husband glances at you, then starts eyeing younger women who haven't borne children. Your mother-in-law tells you, don't eat so much. You don't want to be a walking heap of fat, do you? The villagers, they just shake their heads. She was so pretty before marriage. Some women, once called spring blossoms by the village, are renamed after childbirth. She looks like she's lived 3 lifetimes. No one tells you your stretch marks are traces of life. No one says your softened belly is a heroic scar. No one looks at you and says, you defeated death. They see you as a luxury item once displayed in a fine shop, now relegated to the discount bin. Your postpartum body is deemed devalued, not just by others, by you. You look in the mirror, pulling your dress to hide your belly. You breathe lightly, hoping your breaths aren't too heavy. You pretend you're still desirable. Some tie cloth around their stomachs at night, barely breathing, just to keep shape. Some eat watery gruel for a month to lose weight, even while breastfeeding. Some rub wine on their breasts, thighs, belly, believing it melts fat. But your body isn't clay. It remembers, it resists, and at some point, you choose between health and image. You know what you'll pick, because without image, you have no place. In that society, a postpartum woman isn't allowed to age, isn't allowed to tire, isn't allowed to change. She must go back to how she was. But how? That before is an illusion of a girl who never carried, never tore, never faced death in labor. How do you return when you're no longer that person? No one asks if you want to try, they just demand. You're not even allowed pain. Complain of a sore back. You're just not used to sitting. Mention stinging stitches. Everyone has that. Say you can't sleep, battling insomnia or mood swings. Nonsense. Women need to be strong. No one asks, do you need help? They ask, why do you look so pathetic? You birth a child, then you're abandoned, literally and figuratively. Your body, once desired, is now avoided. The husband who gazed at you passionately now turns away when you undress. Hands that once craved to touch you now hesitate. You become a reminder that you're past your prime. They don't think you still have desires, still feel, still want love. They assume you're now just a child-rearing machine. And if you say otherwise, you're a bad mother. You avoid the market, fearing comparison. Avoid church, dreading questions about when you'll get your figure back. Avoid mirrors, because you don't recognize yourself. The worst part, you start believing you're truly worthless. But you're never worthless. You're living proof of what so many men then couldn't grasp: survival. You snatched your life from death's hands, brought forth a soul, paid with your body. If they don't see that as sacred, it's their fault, not yours. But no one said that then. You could only keep going, pretending you're not weary, not suffering, not hurt. You still hang laundry, carry water, hold your child, cook, scrub your mother-in-law's feet. Your body screams, but you stay silent. Because here, women aren't allowed to break, only to wear away. And if you think postpartum pain stays within your home's walls, you haven't heard the church sermons. There they teach your body is proof of ancestral sin, your stretch marks. They call them Eve's marks, the first woman who brought suffering to the world. And if so, your pain is fate. Or maybe it's the result of a society that sees women as tools, never as people. And if that doesn't change, it'll last until the end of time, unless you disappear, not die, but vanish from your own body, escape your breasts, hips, voice, gait, every sign marking you as a woman. And in many cases, that's no longer a choice, but the only way to survive. So welcome to the stories of women hiding under loose cloaks, shaving their heads, binding their breasts, changing names, to borrow another gender, male. No one counted how many lived like this, not because they didn't exist, but because they weren't allowed to be recorded. A nun named Hildegard posed as a man to study Latin. A healer in ruin wore armor, took her dead husband's name, and practiced surgery for 10 years before being discovered. A woman in the Alps lived 40 years as Pierre, herding sheep, drinking, gambling, only revealed as a secret when her body was washed for burial. But that secret wasn't about identity, it was about survival. Because being a woman meant you couldn't study, couldn't wander, couldn't earn a living, couldn't shout, couldn't ride horses, wield weapons, or have opinions. But just pull a hood low, speak little, bind your chest tight, and bow correctly, and the world breathes a sigh of relief. Ah, a man, and in an instant, you're freer. Not completely, of course, but freer than you ever were in a dress. Changing gender, at least outwardly, was dangerous. If caught, you weren't just deceitful, but perverse, blasphemous. Some places saw it as a capital crime, but for many women, more terrifying than death was living in a controlled, stifled, wasting body. Imagine waking up, no longer binding your chest to suffocation, no 3 layers of dress heavy as earth. You don a coarse cloak, slip into torn boots, tie your hair back, and step into the world as someone not stared at for their hips. No one asks if you're married. No one eyes you, calculating how many children you could bear. No one calls you by a name laced with gentle or obedient. You're just a person, a shadow, and in that invisibility, you live. Some did it to move freely, some to learn a trade, some to escape arranged marriages. Some simply couldn't stand the village staring at their chest when a breeze lifted their hem. Whatever the reason, they shared one trick: existing without leaving a trace, without being remembered, without raising suspicion, without sparking curiosity to cross that fragile line of safety. But living in a borrowed guise wasn't easy. Some were forced to fight, drink, flirt, things they weren't skilled at. Some fled when asked to undress for a wound check. Some lived fearing a child might see them bathe. Some, after 20 years as a man, forgot how to walk with a woman's hips. Not because they rejected themselves, but because the world never gave them a place to exist as women without torment. These women weren't acting, they were surviving, doing what anyone stripped of humanity does, finding the least painful form to slip into. And painfully, in that era, that form was a man's. You might call it deception, they called it self-rescue. And perhaps no one deserved rescue more than those who dared rewrite themselves with coarse cloth, ropes, cropped hair, and a lower voice. But not everyone succeeded. Some were caught for laughing in the wrong tone, some for not walking firmly enough. Some let a hood slip, revealing a soft jawline, and were called demons. No chance to explain, no lawyer, no defender. You're dragged off like a beast that tricked its master. Imprisoned, interrogated, cursed. Why didn't you stay in your dress? And you have no answer, because that dress was the prison that made you want to vanish in the first place. Hiding wasn't from shame. It was because the world made living authentically deadly, and if living authentically meant death, pretending was the only way left. But no matter how well you pretend, one thing can't hide forever. You, deep under that coarse cloak, your voice persists. And sometimes, in the dead of night, when no one sees, you raise your hand, touch your chest. Not to deny, but to remind yourself, I'm still here. And if you think that's the final limit people crossed for a shred of bodily freedom, wait for the next part. Because it's not just about borrowing a gender, it's about your body being forced to bear a nation's sins, becoming a symbol, a tool, a sacrifice for things far bigger than you. And no one asks if you consent. And do you know the irony? No matter how hard you try, living discreetly, passing as a man, or obeying every moral and beauty standard like an obedient machine, there's one thing you can never change. You're not noble, and so you're inherently seen as ugly. No matter how pretty your face, how smooth your skin, how bright your eyes or naturally curled your lashes, it's meaningless without a title, without land, without silk dresses, without a long surname. Your beauty won't be recognized, protected, or recorded in any hymn, painting, or genealogy. Worse, it'll be doubted, mocked, erased. Because in the Middle Ages, beauty standards aren't just aesthetic, they're class-based. A noble woman, pale from sitting in a castle all day, is praised as like the full moon. A weaver girl, tanned from 10 hours in the sun, is called burnt black, like a savage. Noble and fat, wealthy, blessed, poor and fat, lazy, gluttonous. Noble and thin, refined, elegant, commoner and thin, sickly, underfed. The same trait, but defined differently, by status. There was a girl named Rosette, a blacksmith's daughter on the outskirts. Her cheeks flushed from the forge, her arms toned from hammering horseshoes. Once a lord's son passed by, looked at her, and said, "If you were from a proper family, I'd marry you." That's the cruelest part. You can be beautiful. But if your origins are wrong, your beauty isn't real. It's assumed only nobles own beauty. They have time to groom, money for shampoo, servants to comb their hair, clothes to flatter, food to nourish. Commoners must be beautiful by demonic aid, or worse, must have ulterior motives. So if you're a village girl and beautiful, you're envied, propositioned, slandered.
And likely eliminated.
A woman in Charenton was locked up 3 days for wearing a silk dress with unclear origins. A 14-year-old girl had her hair torn out in the market for unnaturally sparkling eyes. A 40-year-old widow was accused of using magic to keep taut skin just for lacking wrinkles. Because beauty without nobility is a paradox, and paradoxes must be fixed. Even clothing laws enforce this. Commoners are banned from deep red, rich, green, or pure black, noble colors. Gold thread embroidery, net lace, silk are restricted. Caught wearing too fine for your class, fined, beaten, or shaved bald for humiliation. So you're not just barred from beauty, you're forced to look poor, dull, nameless. Beauty is controlled like a national resource. Perhaps because that society knew beauty has power. It can drive men mad, spark crowds to riot, disrupt class lines. So, it's placed in the hands of the powerful to ensure no one else wields it as a weapon. You could have an angel's face, but if you carry trays, scrub floors, shovel horse dung, you're not called beautiful. At best, that girl's decent if she scrubs up. But if you're a lord's cousin, with a high forehead, long face, dull eyes, you're praised as classic beauty, like a Greek statue. The tragedy is, you believe it too. You think, maybe I'm not beautiful, because no one sees you as a painting, only a tool. No one writes poetry for you. No one compares you to flowers. No one names you in songs. Your beauty is quiet, fleeting, not allowed to exist. So you hide it. You tie your hair tight. Wear brown, grey, earth tones. Lower your face passing through the village. Never stand near nobles. Never sit near priests. You learn to become a shadow in your own body. Not because you're ugly, but because you're taught that beauty, without a noble crest, is a threat. But if you think this injustice is only skin deep, wait for the next part. Because there, we'll enter the deepest societal darkness, where women aren't just judged by appearance, but by their most invisible parts. Mind, soul, emotions, and anything not pleasing is called madness. And in that society, what's pleasing is never clear. But one thing's certain on your body: any scar, bump, odd mark can become evidence against you. A callus on your hand from hard labor, sign of a curse, a burn from the kitchen fire, witch's mark, an old cut on your calf. Who were you running from? In the Middle Ages, your body isn't just a record of life. It's a living indictment. Every scar and anomaly twisted into a crime. It doesn't matter where your scar came from, why, or when. They just need a reason to accuse. A mole on your neck, maybe where a demon kissed you. A dark spot on your side, perhaps a hellish portal in your flesh. Bitten by a dog. Dogs mark witches. From victim you become suspect. The cruelest part, you stop daring to look at your own body. Because every scar isn't just physical pain, it carries dread. If someone sees, I'll be condemned. There was a girl named Annette, 17, who fell from a roof, her thigh hitting a scaffold. The scar snaked from hip to knee, stretching her skin. 3 years later, she was called to the market for a body inspection. Because villagers noticed her avoiding men's gazes, they thought she was hiding something. Seeing the scar, they didn't hear her explanation. They concluded, sign of being dragged by demons at night. She was locked in a chapel for 3 days, forced to eat holy bread, kneel on rice grains, and pray non-stop to cleanse her body. A scar, meant to prove you survived, becomes a reason to deny your character. A woman who had a difficult birth, cut during delivery, couldn't sit straight. They called her the crooked one, mocking her walk as hiding something. A weaver with burn scars on her hands. No one hired her. A baker with a wrist scar, probably tried to kill herself. Dangerous. No one asks, what did you endure? They just nod. Surely not an honest person. You live fearing a birthmark will be seen as a demonic seal, a freckle as a mystic tattoo. A small lump under your skin gets pricked with a needle to see if it bleeds. If it doesn't, it's a true witch mark. If it does, maybe she learned to fake it. Either way, you're wrong. You learn to hide everything. Wrap cloth around your arms at the market. Wear a deep hood if your ear is torn. Lower your head passing the priest so no one sees your slightly curved neck. Some smear ash on their cheeks to hide scars. Some wear 3 layers in summer to cover back burns. You live in a prison of cloth, and fear. Worse, men with scars are called brave, seasoned warriors. Women with scars are ugly, cursed, troubled. A knight boasting 12 battlefield wounds is invited to preach. A girl with a scar from hot baking oil, banned from church for ruining the aesthetic. No one cares if your scar came from sacrifice, resilience, or pain. They only know you look imperfect, and imperfect in this world means untrustworthy. You start doubting yourself. You cover up more, speak less, avoid sitting near fires, fearing questions about dark spots on your hands. Avoid touching your legs, fearing someone thinks you're checking a hex. You're no longer someone living in your body. You're its guard, day and night, ensuring it doesn't reveal anything wrong. And so you live as if every inch of flesh is potential evidence against you. You stop cherishing your body. It's not a home, it's a minefield, where every mark could trigger unthinkable consequences. Everything you've survived, falls, illness, labor, childbirth, fighting, defending, isn't celebrated as survival, but twisted into signs of sin. Society never sees your resilience, only abnormality. And in a world wanting women to be identical wax statues, abnormality is punishment. And if you think the pain is only skin deep, wait for the next part, because some wounds leave no scars on the body, but etch the mind. Those are the scars no one sees, no one believes, no one heals. We'll enter the realm of obsessions, depression, panic, all reduced to one word: madness. And once called mad, No further reason is needed to cage, bind, or bury you, even if all you ever did was survive. But in the Middle Ages, surviving with an imperfect body doesn't earn you honor. It makes you a target of suspicion, shunning, punishment. And if your body isn't just scarred but deformed, hunched back, uneven shoulders, limping leg, then condolences. You're no longer human. You're a walking curse. A curved spine, today possibly from calcium deficiency, poor posture, or childhood accident. In that era, it's a clear sign of one of three things. You committed a grave sin, your parents offended God, or you're a demon incarnate. No tests needed, no medical history, just your gait, and they have enough reason to be wary, scornful, or even banish you from the village. Hunched, God's bending your back for your lies. Limping, that's because your mother cursed your father while pregnant. Uneven shoulders, maybe from coupling with a monster. Every bodily anomaly is tied to a metaphysical sin, and you can't defend yourself. Because everyone thinks, no smoke without fire. If your back is twisted, your soul must be too. There was a man named Etienne, born with one shoulder raised. He wasn't disabled. He harmed no one. Just not straight. At church, the priest made him sit in the back pew to avoid diluting the sacred energy. During a drought, villagers said, must be Etienne's shadow blocking God's light. He avoided eye contact, spoke softly. Whenever someone fell, lost a cow, miscarried, he was the first they glared at, because his shadow wasn't proper. But it's not just the village. If you have a deformity, you start believing you're at fault. You learn to slouch more to be less noticed. You wear a hood over half your face. You never take the last portion of food, fearing they'll say, greed hunched your back. You never admit pain, because you believe you deserve it. You think your body is a living reminder that God hates you. The worst danger, they don't want you to marry, don't want you to have children. They fear you'll pass on demon genes. A woman with uneven shoulders had her engagement cancelled because her future mother-in-law feared grandchildren might grow tails. A slightly hunched girl from labor was advised by the village healer to become a nun because it's more pleasing to God than spreading bad blood. You're crushed, not just by your back, but by every stare, whisper, sermon, distorted mirror, and your own endless silence. Someone once said, the devil doesn't appear, it hides in broken bodies. That became a tool to erase deformities without guilt. We're not killing people, we're banishing demons. Hunched people can't be tailors, they'll skew the stitches. Can't be bakers, they'll make dough rise unevenly. Can't be near children, their crooked gaze will ruin kids' spirits. Can't touch a priest's robe, their hands carry warped energy. Every action is suspect, every word twisted maliciously. Every breath, if too heavy, is deemed a demon's groan. You live untouched. No one stands close. No one asks how you are. Eventually, you stop wanting to stand tall. Stop eating with others. Stop saying your real name. Because you start believing your body is a verdict. You don't think you're sick. You think you're punished. The tragedy, some once healthy, joyful, running freely, after a fall, a broken spine, a slight hunch, lose their future. They're not healed. They're abandoned. Why? Because no one heals those God has cursed. And if you think the hunched are only shunned, there's more. In some places, they're used as talismans. A traveling circus once caged a hunched teenager, parading him across regions, letting people toss coins at his head for luck. A sorcerer forced a hunched man to stand at a house's door for 3 days and nights, to ward off evil. He died of fever. No one buried him. They said, let a demon's corpse dissolve. Your body, meant to cloak your soul, becomes the reason your soul is condemned. You're not judged by actions, words, heart. You're read like a map of the heavens. Hunched back is divine anger. Lame leg is ruined fate. Uneven shoulders are karma. When society believes this, you have one place to hide, the darkness you create. But if you think this is the darkest part, wait. The next part dives into the final place. Society controls you, where your soul, emotions, dreams are called mad, perverse, needing confinement, cleansing, or destruction. If your body's off standard is a problem, your different mind is a death sentence. But before your soul is dissected, medieval society has a regular, almost mandatory ritual to remind you of your place in the hierarchy of appearance. The festival, don't think it's carefree fun. For the powerful, it's a show of dominance. For the poor, a brief escape from hunger. For you, especially if you're a woman, it's a stage where every eye is ready to judge every inch of your body, every step, every stray hair. You think you're attending the festival? No, you're being watched, not just by eyes, by whispers, by probing glances, by looks sharp as knives. From the moment you step out, people measure you from afar. Why's she wearing that dress? What's with those wrists? Those shoes look richer than her status. You may not hear, but you feel it. The air thickens around your skin, waiting for a floor to tear open. Festivals bring the whole village out. Young men, stripped to show muscle, noble women, wear fancier dresses, and you unsure who to dress like. Dress well, she's showing off. Dress plainly, no respect for appearances, wear makeup, provocative, go barefaced, neglecting herself. Whatever you choose, someone finds fault. At a Saint Barnabé festival, a girl named Elise, a seamstress, honey-skinned, short but curvy, wore a moss-green dress she sewed. Not torn, not revealing, just beautiful. But people sneered. Who does she think she is? A butcher woman said, that figure daring to wear noble colors. A man slapped his belly laughing. From behind, looks like a walking water barrel. 3 days later, Elise was scolded at her shop for making customers lose their appetite, just for daring to appear confident. And festivals don't just judge women, men are scrutinized too. Not tall enough. Better than that dwarf. No beard, not a man yet. Fat, leeching off others. Thin, too weak to support a wife. Everyone's a displayed good. Those quiet voices, whispers, jeers, sometimes loud laughs, are daggers to a generation's self-worth. You might go to a festival for joy, but return haunted. Maybe I'm as ugly as they say. You replay every comment, check your feet, your arms, wondering if they hung too loose. You ask, did someone laugh behind me? Slowly, you stop going to festivals, not because you hate them, but because you fear the giant invisible mirror the festival erects in the square, where everyone looks, but no one examines themselves. Worse, some festival games are designed to mock appearance. Witch face wash, randomly picking an unappealing girl, smearing her with mud, washing it off amid laughter. Harvest Queen contest, choosing the prettiest girl by men pointing from afar, like picking, breeding cattle. Hunchback challenge, making deformed people hop around straw piles, the first to fall mocked for a year. Organizers call it fun, but for those involved, it's a public stripping. You're no longer you, you're a moving form, a spectacle, and after the festival, you carry that wound, bloodless, but deep. Some girls learn defense, they cover tightly, speak softly, stay near friends to shield from stares. Some fight back, dress bolder, laugh louder, act uncaring, but they know they're burning themselves with others' gazes just to hold on to a shred of pride. And some, after a festival of mockery, never appear in public again. They live hidden, as if under a reverse invisibility spell. No one bans them, but everyone makes them want to vanish. You think festivals are rest. Here, they're exams. Your body, the test, the community, the judge. You can memorize prayers, excel at labor, live kindly, but if you step out of rhythm, wear the wrong dress, laugh off key, you fail. And if you think staying home avoids it, you're called unsociable, odd, hiding something bad. You can't escape. Step out, you're judged. Stay in, you're rumored. Festivals, meant to be joyous. But for countless people, they're stages where society's harshest prejudices, discriminations, cruelties are exposed without name. Because when the crowd laughs, one person's pain drowns in drums, trumpets, and cheers for nameless evil. But if you think festivals only stop at mockery and public shame, wait for the next part. Because there's a worse kind where your body isn't just judged but violated, sold, even sacrificed, under the guise of tradition, faith, honoring gods. Then, you'll wish they'd stopped at insults. Because the next harm bleeds for real. Because some festivals don't just wound with eyes and words, but with your body itself. You're no longer a participant. You become an offering. Your body, long scrutinized, mocked, dissected by words, now placed on an altar, an auction block, the bed of the powerful, all under noble pretexts, faith, tradition, devotion, sacrifice, and you can't refuse, because refusing makes you a rebel against the community, the gods, an order you never agreed to join. In some villages, once a year they choose the fairest virgin to sacrifice for a bountiful harvest, not killed, but dressed in white, barefoot, crowned with flowers, led to a platform, and offered to a lord, priest, or rich man, chosen by God's will. They call it an honor, a step into adulthood, the glory of the lineage. But behind the curtain, it's a night of pain, non-consent, loveless, inhumane. A night where your body isn't yours, but a gifted possession. There was a girl named Isabel, 16, chosen as summer god's flower. She didn't want it. She was afraid, but no one asked. Her mother prepared her dress. Her father instructed, don't shame the family. At the ritual, she didn't cry, not from courage, but from numbness. That night, after the ceremony, everyone celebrated. But she, in a cold stone room, body bleeding, eyes staring at the ceiling, realized from now on she was no longer human. She wasn't alone. Some girls were invited to a lord's room after a procession. Some women were made to kiss stone idols, then dragged off when the god entered. Some children, smeared with ash on their foreheads, called festival children, were handed to leaders for the night to bestow blessings. You're made sacred, but sacred things don't speak, resist, or hurt. They call it custom, ritual, the way it's been for ages. But really, it's a cycle of torture, veiled by garlands and drums. You're a body to be decided. No one protects you. No one dares. Speak out, and you're rebellious, blasphemous, tainted. You're driven out, spat on, called an ungrateful woman. And if you think it's only women, wrong. Boys are dragged to platforms, stripped, made to dance before crowds, spanked for luck. Grown men touch them, unchecked. Teenagers are forced to drink, then taught men's secrets by elders. It's not teaching, it's coercion, but everyone laughs, calls it part of growing up. No one asks the victim's feelings. No one believes their story. No one names the truth. Because once your body is seen as usable, everything done to it is justified. They say, it's tradition, God allows it, you should feel lucky, don't be selfish, so you force yourself to live on, as if nothing happened. You eat, shop, clean, greet neighbors, with a body no longer yours, a shell, a tool, a used offering. Many, after such festival nights, never touch their bodies again. Don't bathe alone, don't look in mirrors, don't smile, don't sing, don't lie on their side, don't hug. They can't name the pain, because language has no place for it, only denial, laughter, and endless silence. You live, yes, but in the echo of a night no one remembers, except you, a night that makes you look at your body and ask, why did it make them think they had rights? You find no answer. You just stop trusting anyone. Stop trusting festivals. Stop trusting holiness. Because what's labeled holy tears you apart most brutally, not with knives, but with reasons. Reasons for them to enter your body like a temple without knocking. And you, willing or not, must open the door, bow, and stay silent. You become part of a collective wound, where everyone hurts, but no one speaks. Everyone knows, but no one looks. Everyone smiles, but it's forced, because there's nothing else to do. And if you think your body is only used once at a festival, you're wrong. Afterward, it's gossiped about, scrutinized, judged, auctioned, recalled for life. You can move far, change villages, change names, but they'll say, that's the girl from that year. You never escape. That's the cruelest truth. Not that night, but the day after, the month after, the year after, when you must live, smile, be a wife, mother, daughter, with a body erased from you, a body once yours, but now just the price you pay for a society's indifferent silence. You're not alone, but no one counts you in the tally. Because this pain has no measure, only broken sobs in the dark, repeating, century after century. You'd think, one day, you'd find peace. That when your last breath leaves, when your body stiffens, when your eyes close forever, people would stop seeing your flesh as a commodity. But no, even in death, your body is judged, mocked, scrutinized, condemned, whispered about, with disgust under the guise of ritual and honoring the dead. They don't honor, they gossip. In some regions, the dead are washed and dressed before the coffin. Don't think it's humane, because it's often done by neighbors, acquaintances, or even those who disliked you. That's when they unleash the venom. They didn't dare speak while you lived. Her belly's still fat, huh? Such crooked legs, Good thing the dress hides them. That nose so big and she lived this long. Sometimes, your last mark on the world isn't your final words, but a sneer someone mutters while tying the shroud around your forehead. And if you had deformities, scars, injuries, your body isn't fit for a proper grave. Some villages refuse to bury the hunched near churches. They're taken to the cemetery's edge, where the ground is hard, rocky, wild with weeds, eroded by rain, not for lack of space, but to avoid defiling the sacred with ugly forms. So you're not just shunned in life, but pushed away in death. There was an old woman named Madeline, a lifelong lace embroiderer, kind, unmarried, childless. She had a small tumor on her cheek, growing with age. When she died, the body preparer covered half her face with cloth, not out of respect, but to spare mourners discomfort. They didn't recount how she mended the village's clothes, fed the sick. They talked about the tumor, and stressed one look, and you knew she had a hard life. The dead should rest. But in the Middle Ages, an ugly corpse is handled awkwardly. Some places don't let plump women be buried in silk dresses, because silk is for the worthy. Some swap fine burial clothes for coarse ones, since no one sees anymore. The real reason. Don't waste good fabric on an ugly body, and hair, nails, teeth. If beautiful, they might be taken as charms or keepsakes for the living. You're dead, but your body is still stripped, divided, shared. No one asks if you consent. Death should be the one equalizer. But here, it's the final stage for society to check standards. A pale, slim, rosy-lipped corpse is mourned, truly beautiful, unchanged even in death. A dark, broad-shouldered, stretch-marked corpse is whispered about must have suffered many lives. The horror, many families know this. They paint the dead's face heavily, cover floors with cloth, try to beautify one last time, not out of love, but fear of being judged. Even after a lifetime of endurance, your body must be made up to avoid society's final rejection. Some are chosen for death masks, face molds in wax or clay. But don't think everyone gets that honor. Only those with noble features. Some mothers beg for a mask for their child, denied because the face isn't symmetrical. Some families hide bodies, skip funerals, to avoid village shame. See, even when you leave this world, your body isn't yours. It belongs to the living's gazes, to prejudice, to tongues sighing pity or sneering venom. And people like you, ordinary, imperfect, mocked all your life, aren't celebrated in death, aren't remembered for kindness or sacrifice, just for being ugly, erased from collective memory. And if you think you'll find transcendence, sorry, some places believe ugly souls can't ascend. They say an ugly form means a warped soul. If it rains 3 days after your death, her soul wasn't welcomed. If someone has a nightmare, maybe the dead returned, resentful for being buried far from church. Even dead, you can be blamed again. And if you think this is the end of injustice, not yet. The next part isn't about death. It's about what survives memory. Because what destroys you isn't just society, rituals, blind faith. It's how people choose to remember or forget your body, yourself, your silenced voice, and the heart that once beat fiercely in the dark. Then, the biggest question won't be, am I beautiful? But did I ever exist? Because if your memory is blurred, distorted, or rewritten to serve an alien standard, you cease to be yourself. You become just a name tied to a phantom figure, a fictional portrait, a face that later generations look at and sigh, I wish I could be like her. And so, the tragedy turns a new page when your body is no longer scorned, but idealized, and made a symbol of beauty, a glittering curse. You'd think being seen as a model is a reward. It's not. It's a burden. Because the moment you're placed on a pedestal, you can't err, can't be fat, can't age, can't sicken, can't tire, can't snap, can't live like a normal person. You're a standard, and standards don't crack. Look at the names remembered as medieval beauty icons. Isabeau of Bavaria, Agnès Sorel, Eleanor of Aquitaine, all painted with flawless white skin, swan-like necks, steel corseted waists, lips pale pink like petals, but don't think they were truly like that. Those portraits were edited, redrawn, powdered with illusion, moles erased, eye bags hidden, because they were no longer people, but ideas, and ideas have no flaws. Some records describe in detail breasts full like apples, but not trembling, feet small as a kitten's, back straight as a cathedral pillar. No one could achieve that alive, but dead or famous people start believing you did, and that's when you're quietly erased, not forgotten, replaced by a different you, prettier, neater, more fitting, a beauty mannequin, wearing your face to deceive future generations. Pause. You become an invisible whip, lashing the bodies of the living. Every girl looking at a queen's portrait compares her shoulders, chin, eyes. Every mother looks at her daughter and says, "Eat less to have a waist like Lady Isabeau." Every man scoffs at his wife for not resembling a statue. Meanwhile, you, the real you, who hurt, sickened, lost hair, had stretch marks, are discarded from your own life. Some beauty icons were even used as political tools. A historical woman repainted as the model dutiful wife to teach women submission. A girl forced to be offered to a king turned into a patriotic goddess. No one asked if they wanted to be models. No one asked if they were satisfied. Because once beauty is sanctified, its bearer loses her voice. Think being an icon is prideful. Ask the souls of women, remembered not for courage, kindness or wit, but for long hair or a tilted smile. They loved, suffered, miscarried, raged, erred, but history carved them into dolls, and society displays those dolls before you as a reminder. Be like this, forever like this. Beauty, detached from the real person, becomes a double-edged blade. It cuts away both the right to be weak and the right to be honest. Women, instead of living, start performing. Performing to be praised. Performing to avoid comparison. Performing to not shatter others' dreams of them. Many medieval girls dreamed of being the muse in ballads. But if they became one, they'd realize that's not living. It's existing in others' gazes, like a butterfly pinned to glass. Always beautiful, always perfect, and never flying again. A beauty icon, at its core, is a gilded cage. You're admired, poeticized, painted, but you can't change, can't age, can't sicken, can't be real. And the greatest loneliness in the world is becoming a model even you don't recognize. And if you think time frees you from that mold, not yet. Because what's called eternal beauty clings like a curse. Even dead, your name is weighed, not for who you were, but for what others want, as a reason to hate themselves in the mirror. Centuries later, continue using you to define femininity. Generations of girls are measured against sizes you never had, and your dreams, if they ever existed, are buried under layers of powder, silk, royal crests, and standards you never chose. And so, the final price of being an icon, you're never yourself again. You become a statue, a mold, a tool, and if anything's crueler than being called ugly, your whole life, it's being called too beautiful to live like a human. But if you think it ends here, wait. The next part won't talk about others' judgments anymore. It's about when you, after years of scrutiny, comparison, hurt, and torment, start judging yourself with society's eyes. When you become your own body's jailer. And then, the curse doesn't come from others. It comes from the mirror. When you lean close to that reflection, tracing every wrinkle, counting every gray hair, checking your gait, breasts, belly, skin, not to understand yourself, but to ask, am I still up to standard? No one needs to impose anymore, because you've become the most loyal echo of those who once oppressed you. But here, the question must be asked. The one that should have been asked from the start, but was suppressed for centuries. Who set these standards? Not you, not your mother, not the women waking with red, swollen hands from washing, not the girls forced to wear corsets that broke ribs, not those burned for an odd gait, and certainly not the souls stifled in bodies displayed then discarded. Those standards didn't come from love, care, or community. They were made by someone, or some group, with power and an obsession to control others' bodies. Many standards came from the church, an institution controlling not just faith, but flesh. They decided who could show hair, who had to cover, who could laugh loudly, who was forced to stay silent through Lent. They set the holy woman ideal, thin, pale, desireless, almost absent. The perfect woman takes no space, makes no noise, leaves no mark. And the nobles, they used fashion as a weapon to divide classes. They cinched waists to suffocation, wore floor-sweeping dresses, not for beauty, but to show commoners, I don't work, I even need help to walk. Beauty here wasn't aesthetic, it was a power symbol. You're beautiful in ways others can't mimic, and if they try, they're punished. Men's standards, shaped by war, soldiers, lords, needing strong, tireless, stoic fighters, so men were molded too, tall, sturdy, angular-faced, emotionless. Anyone deviating, weak, half-woman, useless. These weren't natural. They were taught, preached, carved into books, even written into law. And those perpetuating them were often the ones hurt by them, because they had no other choice. Mothers teach daughters to cinch waists, having been mocked by husbands for being fat. Ladies teach maids to walk with heads bowed, having been beaten for looking up. The hurt replicate hurt as a way to survive. And so, society is built on a painful paradox. Everyone suffers under standards, but no one dares break them. From fear of ostracism, fear of isolation, fear of being strange. So we nod, we apply makeup when exhausted, smile when sad, train to walk on tiptoes when knees buckle, learn to love the mold that suffocates us. And when too used to it, we call it normal. You ask, who set the standards? The answer might be the church, nobles, kings, old men writing books about women without understanding one, statues carved from stone, not flesh, images painted by artists, paid to flatter, sermons passed from pulpits to dinner tables, from textbooks to lullabies, but also very likely a society's fear of free people, uncontrollable, unmoldable. Because if you love your body as it is, who sells waist trainers? If you're not ashamed of pimples, fat, hunched backs, loud laughs, who can silence you? If you look in the mirror and see no flaws, the whole control system collapses. Standards don't need you to believe them. They need you to doubt yourself, to stand before a mirror each morning and ask, am I beautiful enough? And from that moment, you become the tool for their rebirth. So the question, who set them, isn't just to name culprits, it's to remind you, everything can be reset. Standards can change, mirrors can reflect truth, not lies. And you, despite believing you're wrong, can start today with a new question. Why did I believe that? Because when you question, the first mold cracks. When you stop bowing, the fire inside ignites. And when a generation dares confront the source of standards, beauty stops being a chain. It becomes something truly yours. And the final part of this story won't be about pain anymore. It'll be about the last possibility left. After all the loss, liberation. But liberation from what? From history, from centuries-long whispers, from others' gazes, and from the inner voice that learned to despise itself. Because the scariest thing about medieval standards isn't just that they existed, it's that many persist today, only swapping velvet dresses for sneakers, churches for social media, priests for comments under a photo. You think you've escaped, but every time you look in the mirror and ask, am I too fat? Is my skin white enough? Why isn't my belly flat? Why aren't my legs model long? You're reliving whispers from 1,000 years ago, just in your own voice. You're not forced to cinch your waist, but you buy shapewear. You're not made to be corpse pale, but you buy whitening cream. You're not threatened with burning for a hunched back, but you buy posture braces. You're not labeled demon-possessed for acne, but you spend hundreds to save your skin. Sure, today you have more choices. You can shave or not, wear tight or loose clothes, live outside molds, and still be heard. But you're not fully free if you live to please the mirror, not yourself. History doesn't leave. It changes roles. The fears of being seen, judged, compared, linger in every filtered photo, every post you delete for not looking right. You have rights today, but they're not always used to love. We talk about body positivity, diversity, self-acceptance, but deep down, the question remains, will anyone love me if I'm not beautiful enough? That's the Middle Ages' most dangerous remnant, when love and acceptance hang on a standard set by others. So what to do? Maybe we don't need to erase the past, because your body, and those before you, is a witness to a long struggle. Every cinched bone, every drop of blood shed for beauty, every night stripped for festivals, every time mocked, they're warnings, but also a legacy, and you can turn it into strength by choosing not to repeat. Today, if you have a scar, No, no one can call it ugly. See, if you're fat, thin, tall, short, pale, tanned, it's not a flaw. It's proof you've lived, existed, being human. And if someone tries to impose a standard, ask, where's this standard from? Does it help me live better, or just make me hate myself? You don't need permission to love your body. And if you can't love it yet, start by stopping the hate. Give it space to breathe. Let it live as it wants. Soft, curved, smooth, rough, round, flat, fluid, changing. Your body doesn't need to be an apology or a justification. It just needs to be itself. Because in the end, the most beautiful thing was never in standards. It's in freedom, when you need no one else's validation, when you don't look in the mirror for flaws, but to see your own eyes reflecting back, awake, strong, gentle, and in that moment, you're no longer history's victim. You're its rewriter, on your own body. We've journeyed through the haunting lives of medieval people, where bodies were scrutinized down to every hair, scar, off-step, even after death. From peasants forced to be muscular, to noble women starved to look half dead, to girls offered on festival altars, to those mocked in death for not dying beautifully. It all shows one thing: body standards are never harmless, especially when they stem not from compassion, but from power and control. And if you think that's ancient history, scroll through social media in America today, influencers selling size 0 waists, ads for hair transplants for 20-somethings, body transformation, posts full of sweat, tears, and filters. Yes, you're not burned for being ugly, but you're still destroyed daily if you don't meet an ideal image crafted by others. The lesson? Your body doesn't need society's approval before you accept it. Remember that many standards today are as absurd as bathing in lead for whiteness back then. Ask who profits when you hate yourself, and can you choose kindness to yourself as the quietest, strongest rebellion? If you've been hurt by a standard, subscribe to join us in uncovering more untold historical truths. Thank you for staying through this long journey. See you in the next video, where we keep freeing what seems normal.